As we have understood what is probability and how to calculate that, there are some basic concepts which we wanted to understand. Now these basic concepts will help you take more and more logic, understand more and more logic in probability. So first thing first, we want to talk about an experiment. For example, an experiment is the process by which an observation is obtained or a measurement is obtained. Now what is that experiment? For example, my experiment could be that I wanted to find out how many cars are there in a particular city. Like say if there are like say 2 lakh people which or 20,000 people who are sitting in that or staying in this particular city, how many people or how many families have car? Or my experiment could be that I wanted to know out of 20,000 city, how many people spend more than 10 lakh rupees in a particular car, or people who wanted to spend more than 10 lakh rupees on a car, they choose up like what brand they choose. Like they wanted to go for Toyota, or they wanted to go for Ford, or any other brand for that matter, right? Similarly, we have an event which is an outcome of an experiment. For example, so I will say, so my experiment is where I'm trying to find out whether like how many people who wanted to spend, like out of 20,000 people who wanted to spend more than 10 lakh rupees, they choose Ford or they choose Toyota, and whatever outcome I get, right, that will be called as an event, right? So say for example, say 500 people out of 20,000 people wanted to spend more than 10 lakh rupees on a car, and they wanted to choose Ford, and 600 people out of 20,000 people they wanted to spend 10 lakh rupees or more on the car, and they choose Toyota for that matter. So these are simple events, right, which we can calculate. So the event is the basic element to which we will be applying the probability, and we cannot decompose it further. And when an experiment is performed, a particular event either happens or it doesn't, or if it happens, then it comes with some kind of numbers. Okay, so an event that cannot be decomposed is called as simple events, right, which means that we cannot decompose it further, or we cannot bifurcate it further, right? And it is always denoted by E with a subscript. Each simple event will be assigned a probability measuring how often it occurs. So for example, so just to give you an idea, for example, if I wanted to find out, my experiment is that how many people wanted to spend more than 10 lakh rupees on like when they buy a car. Say there are 1100 people out there. Now this is my event, right? And in this event there are two more events. Out of this 1100 people, 500 people wanted to go for Ford, and then 600 people wanted to go for Toyota. Now these are two simple events which are the outcome of an event, and these are the values on which I will be applying my probability. So an event can be decomposed into multiple simple events. So, or you can say a collection of all simple events is called one event. An event is an outcome of an experiment always. An experiment could be anything, right? It could be rolling a dice, or it could be finding out the people who are suffering from a particular disease, or it could be anything for that matter, right? So let's pick up one example, right, which will help us understand more. There is something called as random experiment. Like for example, if I roll a die, I do not know the results, right? When I before you roll a die, right, you don't know what exactly the results are. So it's an example of a random experiment. I'm performing a random experiment where I'm not aware about the results which may come, right? A random experiment is a process by which we observe something uncertain, right? For example, after the this experiment is performed, the result of the random experiment is known. So for example, if I toss a coin, I can get head or tail. I am not sure, right? I am not aware of. If I roll a die, probably I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 or 6. I have no idea what I'm going to get, right? For example, if I just pick up the number of iPhones sold by an Apple store in a particular city, I may get 1, 2, 3, or maybe 10,000 or 20,000. I have no idea about that, right? So my random experiment is that I have no clue that what output I'm going to get, right? That is called as random experiment. Okay, So stay tuned with me. I'll talk about more like sample values. For example, what is trial and what are some other basic stuff which we wanted to know, right? I'll speak to you in the next video. We'll talk more on different different